everybody, this is D Hunter bringing another action figure review. Today we're in with the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Superman action figure. This is a Superman based off the comic design. McFarlane Toys just got the DC license in January of 2020. Presumably they outbid Mattel on it. This is something really cool. Todd McFarlane said he always wanted to do one of the big three, being Marvel, DC, or Star Wars toys. These guys are 7-inch scale, a little bit taller than the Mattel Multiverse figures. They were about 6.5 inches. Really looking forward to comparing them with the older figures, seeing how they blend in, seeing what kind of articulation improvements or deprovements we've gotten. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging here. I must say I got mine at Target. Went into the store, there was about 12 figures on the shelf. I was pretty happy to find them that quickly. So you can see Superman here in the middle. He's looking pretty cool. He's got that curl on him. Looks like the cape is made of plastic. His S, very vibrant colors. Really like the blue and red they used. DC Multiverse Superman. See at the top here, we've got 22 points of articulation. And then here on the side, McFarlane Toys, we've got the Spawn logo there. Not much going on the top here. Side, Superman from Action Comics number 1000, the DC Multiverse. Other side just simply says Superman. The bottom here, do a barcode in case anybody needs it. And on the back side here, got a picture of Superman from the comics with the Daily Planet in the background. And then we've got some of the other figures they're teasing. Superman from the animated series, an armored Superman. Looks like Batman from Detective Comics 1000. Batman, the Man Who Laughs, the figure I'm probably looking forward to the most. And then I believe this is called the Raptor. It's a Batman vehicle with 3 wheels, but it is comic accurate from the comics. And it's going to fit your 6 or 7 inch figures, which is pretty cool. So with no further ado, let's open this guy up. And here's this McFarlane Superman Multiverse figure next to a Mattel Superman Multiverse figure in the package. As you can see, McFarlane is sort of continuing the multiverse line, although they definitely upsized the figures a little bit, which I'm pretty cool with. I do really enjoy DST, NECA, McFarlane, and DC Direct figures, which are all 7-inch. You can see the figure inside is a little bit bigger, and the package itself is a little bit bigger as well. But there's a lot of similarities too. Notice they both say DC Multiverse in pretty much the same spot down there, so it sure does appear to be a continuation of sorts of the line. And I got this figure with a huge haul of figures from Walmart at Target today. Not all the McFarlane figures are in hand, but hopefully they will be soon. Alright, now that we got this guy out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. And he honestly doesn't come with that much. He's got a collector's card from Action Comics number 1000, and this accessory means absolutely nothing to me. He's got a flight stand, which is pretty cool for a character that actually fly. You can hold them in a flight pose and sort of keep them there on your shelf. I'm not much of a stand guy, so this is going to go into a huge bin of stands, never to be seen again, but it's still cool for those that want to utilize it. And then he has 2 alternate hands, totaling 4 different hands. My biggest gripe about this figure is he doesn't come with flight hands, completely flat extended fingers like Superman often has, and most of the figures seem to come with. This guy would have really benefited from an extra pair of hands, considering he doesn't really come with any traditional accessories. He does have a nice flight stand, which the other figures don't have, but I personally would have loved some flight hands. The hands he's currently wearing, his default hands that he came with, they're sort of semi-open. They're kind of like flight hands, but not all the way there. I would have rather them ditch these and give us 2 flight hands. And then his alternate hands, he's got a left fist and a right gripping hand. My wish list would have been 1 pair of flight hands, 1 pair of gripping hands, and 1 pair of fists, and ditch the hands that he comes with in the package. But before we look at accessories in detail, let's check out the actual figure. So this is McFarlane's first comic Superman offering ever. McFarlane just got the DC license here this month, January of 2020, and so far I'm liking their comic figures quite a bit. These are the 7-inch scale, so they're larger than the Mattel figures. So let's look at this guy. From the top, you can see his face here. It looks pretty decent. I absolutely love the curl on his head. Classic traditional Superman. Cheeks a little red, not really sure what's going on there. His cape here, It's made of a soft plastic material. It's pretty big. It's very bendy. Could have benefited from having a cloth cape on this guy, and I'm sure some customizers are going to do some really cool stuff with that. Going a little further down, his Superman logo on his chest looks great. The red there is different from his cape and his trunks. It's a metallic, shiny red. His colors really pop on this guy. Nice, bright red, yellow, blue. It's going to really make him stand out with all those dark gray Batman characters from the wave. You can see he's got a lot of muscles on his abs and chest area. He has 2 different ball joints here to give him a whole bunch more articulation than the Mattel figures. His belt looks good. Belt loops are painted and sculpted. Trunks look good. I'm glad they put those back on the characters. He has single jointed elbows and double jointed knees, but we'll get the articulation in depth later. His boots are sculpted, not just painted on there, which is pretty nice. And then his feet, they do have this kind of bad looking ball joint in the middle there. And frankly, those kind of joints are a pain in the ass to execute properly. But I'd say as a whole, he's a pretty solid looking comic figure. McFarlane's first comic Superman, and he looks pretty decent. And then here's the figure broken down as far as it can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Next, let's take a look at his accessories. Let's go and start off with the boring stuff. This here is a collector's card representing Superman from Action Comics number 1000. Very classic look. Superman standing there, cape floating in the wind, Daily Planet in the background. Backside here, got a little bio on Superman and a bunch of description. Then we've got the flight stand here. The other figures came with a very basic black stand. This one here is transparent, has a DC logo on it, also has a peg. Then it has another piece that will attach inside. And like I said before, his stand is quite a bit nicer than the stand that came with the other McFarlane figures. Here's one from the other figures. It's black, extremely thin, and a lot cheaper. Now this thing here has another piece that attaches. Take it, sort of slide it into place like so. It does click and secure itself in there. And then here it is. It's got a little bit of articulation on the top. Can rotate up and down and can clamp onto the figure. Here he is utilizing the flight stand. I guess these are flight hands, but I would have preferred them to be flat. At least it's what I'm more familiar with Superman. Really doesn't look bad at all. His head doesn't quite look up as much as I would like it to get that sort of looking straight ahead pose. Overall, definitely a pretty nice accessory for a flying figure. You can see that it fits great under his cape. They designed that pretty well. Next, let's check out his hands. So here's his first set of hands. These are the default hands that he came with in the package. These would presumably be his flight hands. As you saw earlier, he can make some pretty cool flight poses with them. And these are semi-open, so they should be able to hold at least some select accessories. Take this guy, put his hand in the air, rotate it around. Really not too bad. And then here he is with his alternate hands. His left hand is in a fist, and his right hand is a gripping hand, semi-open. So he can both hold something and punch something at the same time. I think it would have benefited from having 2 gripping hands and 2 fisted hands. And here's a pretty cool Superman accessory that came with both a basic Superman from Batman vs Superman, as well as a Mattel Multiverse Dark Knight Returns Superman exclusive from a 2-pack. These are some heat vision beams coming from their eyes. Wanted to see if this will work with McFarlane Superman. And you know what? This does work pretty well to enhance his McFarlane figure. Doesn't fit on his head quite as nicely as I'd like, but it does stay on there, not too loose. And you know what? It looks pretty good. And here's another accessory that I thought would be cool to enhance the Superman figure. A couple of semi-transparent large green diamonds work great for kryptonite pieces. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at his accessories, next let's check out the height of this figure. So this guy here, from bottom to top, is sitting at about 7.25 inches, and that equals about 18 centimeters. And I was curious, since I just did a review on Batman, He was just about 7.0 inches from the top of his head and 7.25 from the top of the ears. So I pulled out these two character bio cards, and it says Batman here is 6 foot 2 inches, and then it says Superman here is 6 foot 3 inches. So at least they made the Superman figure taller than Batman, and that seems to be accurate with the information they provided. Now these figures appear to be almost the same height, and if in real life they're only supposed to be 1 inch difference, they should be very similar. But Batman is a hair shorter than Superman, but the top of his ears are pretty much the exact same height as the figure of Superman. Next, let's check out this figure's articulation. So, starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate around from side to side, no problem. It can look down that far, which is pretty nice, and it can look up that far. A little more than a Mattel figure, but I'd say he needs to look up a little bit more to be able to get those flight poses you really want. His cape here, it is bendable, but not removable by any means. His shoulders here, they're on a ball joint. They can go out more than 90 degrees, which is a very pleasant surprise. Up, down, around, all that fun stuff. There's also a piece of plastic between his bicep shoulder area and his chest. I believe it's called a butterfly joint. It's going to allow his arms to go in and out and just give it a little bit more range of motion there, just like the McFarlane's Fortnite figures. His elbows here are single jointed, which actually surprised me since most of these figures have double jointed elbows. Not sure if that's just to make his muscles look better or exactly why they made that decision. They can go in about that far, pretty much 90 degrees. I was hoping for a little more. Then his wrists here. Now one thing that bothers me is the ball joint there is made out of the blue outfit color, and I think it should have been made from flesh color. Not a huge deal, but just makes it look a little weird on the hands. So they can rotate around no problem. They're also hinged as well. Now there's a ball joint here that has articulation both where the hand and where the forearm touch it. So if you want to hinge it a different way, you can rotate this ball joint at the base, rotate the hand at the top, and then it will be hinged in a different location. He's got a ball joint here instead of an ab crunch. It can rotate from side to side. It can also go in and out quite a bit. He's got another ball joint here instead of the traditional waist swivel. It can rotate all the way around, and it can go forward and back as well, giving this guy a huge range of motion in his torso area. He can dance, he can fly, all kind of stuff. His legs go out this far, can pretty much do the splits. I would not call that a ball joint inside of there. Then go out that far, then go forward about that much, not 90 degrees, then go back, really not at all. Now the legs are also able to move independently of what's inside of there, but not by too much. He's got double jointed knees, go back that far. And then his feet are done similarly to his wrist joints. There's a ball in here, which I must say is very noticeable on this guy. So his feet can go up quite a bit, back quite a bit. There's toe articulation as well. Now if you want to rotate them, sure you can do that. Now if you want to tilt and rock them, you cannot do that. But if you want to do that, you have to rotate the ball joint here, hold it in place, rotate his foot back, and then sure it'll be able to rotate and rock. But honestly, it's a pain to execute that properly. Next, let's check this guy out compared with some of their action figures. Starting off with the other McFarlane DC figures that I've gotten so far. And then next to some other Superman and Superman related figures. And then next to some other action figure lines to see how he fits in both scale and style wise. And I know I already showed you these two together, but here's a modern comic Batman next to a modern comic Superman. I think these guys look pretty decent together. Batman's got the darker colors, Superman's bright, vibrant. Batman's head is definitely too small, especially when he's next to Superman here. I've seen a lot of people say they don't look good together. Maybe I'm just deluding myself, but I don't think they look that bad together. And here's this McFarlane comic Superman next to the McFarlane Superman the Animated Series Superman from the Bruce Timm animated universe. Now these guys scale up pretty decently together. The animated Superman is just a little bit shorter than the comic Superman, but their style is completely different. These animated Superman is big, bulky, kind of weird proportions. I know it's accurate to the Bruce Timm animation, but it doesn't really match the other McFarlane figure in front of you very well. It's almost like we have the animated series are going to have to be displayed separately. I'm kind of okay with that, but as is right now, Series 1 looks like they don't all mesh together, but as McFarlane makes more and more figures, we should hopefully be able to collect and complete teams, families, and different collections. And here are all the McFarlane DC Multiverse figures that I've been able to obtain so far. I sure don't have all of them. There's still Arrow, Armored Batman, Armored Superman, Nightwing, Batgirl, and Batman the Man Who Laughs to obtain, as well as a Batman vehicle of sorts. And I will say, Harley Quinn appears to be the tallest of them, but that's not the top of her head. That's where her sort of jester hat's sticking up. Top of her head is pretty even with most of the other figures. And I did want to add, just like I said before, these first three are animated. The next three are comic figures. It kind of looks like the animated figures are kind of going to be grouping with each other. The comic figures going to be grouping with each other. Kind of curious to see how the live action, such as Arrow figures, stack up, if they're going to have to be in their own group or if they're going to fit with the comic figures. Next, let's check them out compared to some other Superman action figures from a bunch of different various lines, starting with some of the larger ones and working our way smaller. Here are a couple of Superman figures from NECA. In my opinion, NECA has made some of the most fantastic DC figures out there. There is a third NECA Superman that I don't have, which is from a Superman versus Muhammad Ali 2-pack. Now this Superman here, a lot considered to be the best one ever made. He is really nice. He's from the recently released San Diego Comic-Con Superman vs. Aliens 2-pack. And this one here, Christopher Reeve Superman, this is an excellent portrayal of Christopher Reeves from that film. This guy here, his sculpt is quite a bit more detailed than the McFarlane one, but he's a little bit overly muscular. You guys tell me what you think. Which Superman is better? Drop a line in the comments. The NECA Superman or the McFarlane Superman? But keep in mind, the NECA one's going to be about $30 and the McFarlane one's going to be about $20. And actually that was the retail price. You want to get this guy now, he's probably going to be $50+ online just to get the Superman. Here he is next to several different Superman figures from both DC Direct and DC Collectibles. These guys are the 7-inch scale, and I'm happy that McFarlane is going to be able to work with NECA, Diamond Select Toys, McFarlane Toys, DC Direct, and DC Collectibles action figures. Here he is as he would scale up with a Mezco 1/12 cloth soft goods Superman figure. And here he is next to some Mattel, DC Universe Classics, and Multiverse Superman figures. These were the figures I was most curious to compare him to right off the get-go. These two guys here from The Dark Knight Returns, they're from the Multiverse line, and they use He-Man, Master of the Universe Classics bodies. This guy here is the most classic Superman from DC Universe Classics. And then this one here is a Rebirth Superman from the Multiverse line. You can see this McFarlane figure is definitely taller than all of them, but it's really not crazy horrible difference between these guys here. I mean, we're talking about less than half an inch difference. I mean, the overall bodies are a little bit different as well. Length of the arms, thickness, etc. But here we go, new multiverse and old multiverse. And here he is next to a Mafex Superman figure. This is one of the earlier Mafex Superman figures from Batman vs. Superman. Their Justice League Superman, I'm told, is quite a nicer release. And here he is next to some Mattel Movie Master Superman figures. These are figures from Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League. And then here he is next to a bunch of 6-inch basic Superman figures. These are from the cheaper, more kiddie lines. These ones are about $9.99 each. We've got figures from Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, Total Heroes, and either Batman Unlimited or Power Attack. Here he is next to all the different 6 and 7-inch Superman figures that I have in my collection. Here's this McFarlane Superman next to a Mattel DC Superheroes Clark Kent figure. A little bit small, but I do enjoy having a Clark Kent in civilian attire. And here he is next to a bunch of other characters from the Superman family. We got Supergirl, I believe a different Earth Superman, and then a couple different Superboys. And here he is next to a composite Superman Batman from DC Direct. Here he is next to a couple of Bizarro and Bat-Zaro figures from both DC Direct and Mattel. Here he is next to the Mattel Multiverse Super Doom figure. Here he is next to a bunch of different Lex Luthor figures, some in the armor and some without. Here he is next to a few different Doomsday figures, all from Mattel. Next, let's check him out compared with some other action figure lines from various companies, in case you want to mix him. Here he is with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. Here in front of you, we've got 5 different lines from McFarlane Toys. They're all 7-inch scale and fit in pretty nicely together. And here he is next to some DST or Diamond Select Toys action figures. And here he is next to some NECA figures. Then, with some figures by DC Direct and DC Collectibles, all the figures from Diamond Select Toys, NECA, McFarlane, DC Direct, and DC Collectibles are all 7-inch and should work more or less pretty good with McFarlane DC Multiverse. Here he is with some Mattel wrestling figures. Then, here he is next to some Mezco 1/12 cloth soft goods action figures. And here he is next to some Mattel, DC Universe Classics, and Multiverse figures. Then next to some Mafex figures. And then next to some Hasbro, Marvel Legends. And here he is next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And then here he is next to some Jazzwares figures. So overall, I'm going to say this is a pretty solid figure. Definitely one of the best ones out of the wave. Classic, traditional Superman. He's got the curl. He's got great color. His articulation's pretty good. My only sort of cons this guy, I'm not really feeling how his ankle joints are, and I wish he had better flying hands. Besides that, I think this guy's pretty nice. If I were to rate this figure, I'd go ahead and give him a 7 out of 10. That is the same rating I gave the Batman figure, but I'm a little biased on the Batman because I'm a huge Batman fan, which kind of tells you the Superman figure is perhaps a hair better than that Batman. His head definitely scales up with the figure's body better than Batman's head. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add it to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Keep an eye out for my reviews from the rest of the McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.